Hey, everybody. It is so good to see you. I am glad that you could join me this evening for Is Your Networking Not Working? Welcome, everyone. If you are just joining me, please let me know where you're coming from, what line of work that you're in, and maybe what you're hoping to get from tonight. I don't know. It seems like we've got quite a few people registered and not really sure how many to expect because this is a time slot I don't normally occupy. So it's good to see you. Let us know what business you're in, what kind of thing that you do, what you're hoping to learn from tonight. And in case you are wondering, yes, you are in the right room because this is about networking. If your networking is not working, this is something for you to learn. So it's going to be some definite things to do, some things not to do, and this is going to be interesting. So this is one of my more fun ones. I always seem to attract some really fun crowds in this one. This is a real fun endeavor. So please let us know. Please type in the chat where you're from, what line of work that you're in, maybe what you're also hoping to get from tonight, and maybe what you're currently doing for networking, like what's going on in your networking world. If you're not really spending much time networking, or you're trying to do it online, or you're going out there doing it organically, but you're just not effective, you're not getting referrals, that sort of thing. So a couple of things as we get started here, just a couple of housekeeping items. For those of you who are my multitaskers and you know who you are, sometimes, like right now, I know some of you might be putting kids to bed. Some of you might be the middle of the night from where you're at. We got someone in Florida. Hello, Michelle, watching from Florida in the real estate industry. Anthony Jones. Oh, wait, Anthony. I think we know each other. I think your name sounds really familiar. So that is good that, wherever you're at, wherever you're coming from, I'm just going to ask you not to multitask, because the reality is you're just not going to be as effective. You're going to be trying to do other things. If you're cooking dinner and you're listening for it, that's fine. But I'm just saying, do your very best not to be scrolling on video, watching other videos, returning emails and things like that, because this is about training your brain for the next hour. And if you think you're great at multitasking, I'm just letting you know, you're like the drunk guy at the party. You think all of your jokes are funny and you think you're super dialed in, and you're really not. That's the problem with multitasking, is that we trick ourselves to think that we're being more effective when really all we're doing is task switching. If you don't believe me, Google multitasking is a myth. Read as many articles as you want from very smart people who've done actual research on the subject. So let's see. We've got someone from Portland. Hello, Kimberly, Portland, Oregon. Insurance, do auto, home, life, especially. Okay. And specialty stuff, pets, jewelries, ATVs. Very good. Let's see, Pearl, I'm a photographer and energy worker in the Bay Area. Okay, very good. Glad you could join us today. Fallon, hello, from Connecticut, mental health therapist and have health and wellness and business on the side. Excellent. So what I'd like to know is, what kind of problems are you running into with your networking? If your networking is not working, where are you doing networking now? What kind of questions do you have? And we can help settle in and get some of those questions answered tonight, because a lot of times what you might be thinking is, man, I'm doing all the things, but I'm just not as effective. And it may be coming down just to a couple of small things that you're doing. And let's face it, it probably is you. And that's okay, because it's you. That's a good thing. That means you can fix it. So we're going to get into the meat and potatoes. And also one other question, that I letting you know, you will be getting a replay from me. So it'll be an email at markdolfini.com. I'm just letting you know, check your spam, because if you have a Gmail or anything like that, generally it's going to wind up in your spam. I don't know why. It just hates me. So there'll be a link to this as a replay. Many times I get that question, because sometimes people have kids to put to bed and something they can't be, they have to hop off early. So just want to let you know, if that's the case, you will be getting a replay of this. All right, so let's get to it. The truth about networking, I'm a networking guy, and I was very lucky to have been part of BNI, which is Business Networking International. And I was just about in every position you can be in BNI. I was president of a chapter. I was the education coordinator. I was the director of a chapter. I was the ambassador. I was the area director for a while. This is in fact, the founder of BNI, whose name is Ivan Meisner, not to drop names, but he endorsed my first book. And if it wasn't for Ivan Meisner, I'm not sure that I would be where I am today. And I owe him a debt of gratitude I could never repay. And just a great guy. learned a ton from that organization. I ended up, after 14 years, I ended up leaving the organization just because it didn't quite align with where I was going. I had changed businesses. I've been in several businesses that I've owned, all of them that I have owned, and it just wasn't the best fit for where I was going. I was trying to grow a national brand, and I decided to go in a different direction. But for local chapters, and there's chapters literally all over the world, it was absolutely wonderful. I mean, one of the things that I came to learn is that the value of your net worth on paper, right? Your net worth in terms of what you're worth on paper is directly related to the value of your network. And that is so true. So this is why it's so important for you, even if you're not going out there building a network for the purpose of referrals, it is important for you to develop your network just so you can connect and stay connected with people who you can help in the future and who may be able to help you in the future. This is something that I feel like I didn't do super great through COVID, but I definitely on the other side of that made much more intentional um, push towards being much more intentional, I guess, about developing and working my network. So let's talk about the agenda today. The agenda that I'm going to go through is first and foremost, this is the Viper methodology. And I'm going to be talking about the Viper method just really quick because this is a business framework. Again, I work with a lot of business owners and I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. And this Viper framework is the framework that I look through all businesses through that lens. So if you don't own your own business, that's fine. But just want to let you know that many people do who come to me want to, and that's the framework that I use is the Viper methodology. I talk about the 4 core functions of business, which have to be true in every business. We're going to be talking about lead generation, where the conversation actually starts. We're going to talk about actual networking and different things that you need to be doing. And then I've got some success strategies and some resources at the end. So what we're talking about specifically is a strategic approach to managing your life and your business. So let me just read some of these comments real quick. Fallon, I've done vending events, networking events, speed networking, and nothing has worked. Okay, great. Fallon, we're going to make sure that I answer this. I think I'm going to answer your question because I have more questions for you, right? So this is there's a couple things in here that I may answer for you along the way, but if I don't, make sure you ask that again at the end because I have a feeling I know why, right? I don't know you at all. I'm just making a quick judgment here because I know why it wasn't working for me doing all those things. I have done in-person networking. This is Kimberly. I've done in-person networking, virtual meetups, going to be in different businesses, reaching out to people via LinkedIn and other social media platforms. Haven't gotten much. Okay, very good. And this is also something. And I'm not going. In fact, I just did another webinar a couple hours ago, and this was specifically it was related to marketing magic. And one of the biggest points that I make in marketing magic is around the development and creation of trust. And I didn't put that in this one, and I may actually evolve this one a little bit because the problem is people try to get to transaction way too fast. And that's a big problem. When you're going to transaction way too fast, when you're trying to go for the ask way too quickly, if you haven't developed enough trust with that individual, you're going to break trust. In fact, you're gonna blow up the transaction, right? So one of the things that I learned in the I'm going off script here for just a hot second, but one of the things that I learned in BNI, which I thought is absolutely brilliant, is called the VCP process, right? Which is visibility, credibility, and profitability. And when you initially meet someone, right, like Kimberly, we've known each other now for like all of about 11 seconds. Okay. You don't know if you can trust me. In fact, you may think I'm a complete BS guy, right? You don't know anything about me. And if I said, hey, Kimberly, how about you just go ahead and buy my book? You're like, what's it? What? Like, what's it about? Like, okay, like it's too much too soon. It's like romance me a little bit. Like, light a candle, pour some wine, right? And I'm using that metaphorically, but I'm just saying like this is the problem that people try to get the profitability too fast. And that is the one thing that I noticed. That's why I won't go on it on LinkedIn. Every time I go on LinkedIn, I feel like I'm getting swarmed by mosquitoes. And that's been a big problem is people try to get to profitability way too quickly. They don't take the time to establish credibility, and credibility, right, is basically your credibility. There's lots of ways to build credibility. For me, the way that I like building credibility is to show vulnerability. The way I like to build credibility is to demonstrate my authority, right? I'm an author of 8 books. That's the root word of authority, author. I've established authority as a business owner. I've established authority, obviously, as an author. I've established authority in my knowledge, right? By demonstrating my competence. So there's lots of ways that you can do that. And I think when you take the time to do that, that's when you can get to profitability much faster. But you cannot skip that process. There's too many people too skeptical to get into networking conversations with people because they think they're going to be sold on something. Does that make sense? So I'm just letting you know, like, I was doing the same things. And then I was realizing, like, oh man, all I was doing was trying to sell to the person across the table from me. And it just wasn't working. All right. Anthony's writing, I have had opportunities with follow-up I have had opportunities with the follow-up when networking, keeping the connection after initially meeting. Yeah. And that is a problem with most people. Most salespeople are horrific at following up and they don't follow up. And that is the number one mistake that most networkers don't do. I have a business card on my desk from someone who I met when I was the MC at a gala on Friday. And she heard that I was a strategist and she's like, we need to talk. I was like, okay. And she's like, hey, here's my business card. And normally I carry like a blue Sharpie on the back, but I knew I would remember who she was because she was the only person that was, handing me a business card that night. But the thing was, like, I made sure that I made it a priority to follow back up with her because she was so adamant about me doing this. Now, again, if she doesn't follow back up with me, I'm going to follow back up and again, and I'm going to call her, I'm going to email her, I'm going to send her mail, right? She's someone who wants my services and I'm not going to stop, right? Until she says stop, like I'm not going to, whatever, like, but the thing is, she was reaching out to me. Now, again, this is a networking thing. I don't know that she's wanting to do business with me, and I'm talking a little bit more sales than networking. But the reality is I need to be reaching out to my network and delivering value to them. I need to constantly be delivering value rather than just, hey, you ready to buy something? Hey, do you know somebody? Hey, I'm doing this thing. Like, you want it ready to buy? That's not networking. That's being obnoxious. All right. So let me get into this. I'm going to answer more questions at the end. But the thing is, the main fundamentals around networking, people aren't doing them. Let me just ask you something, Kimberly, Anthony, any one of you can answer this. If the only time you ever heard from me was when I was trying to sell something, how eager are you going to be wanting to take my call or return my email or answer my phone call? Think about that. And think about how many times when you're reaching out to someone, if you're like, hey, how's it going? You're sending them a text message or something like that, rather than, Anthony, you're in real estate in, we'll say Central Florida. I don't know where you're at. But if I said, hey, would you be interested in connecting with some home builders or some realtors in that area that I know are high performers and are always looking for people to wholesale properties to? You'd go, yeah, I actually know people like that. I actually know people who you might be interested in connecting in Central Florida, right? Or Daytona Beach or wherever the heck you happen to be. I know people all over Florida. My point is, you would find value in that. And what if I did that 2 times and 3 times and 4 times and just kept sending people your way? Would you find value in our relationship? That's networking. That's being a master networker. That's when you're making connections for your connections. And people are going to absolutely highly value what it is that you do. I have a client who lives in Central Missouri that wants to relocate to Daytona Beach. And guess what? I know people in Daytona Beach. I said, oh, when you go there next time, I'm going to connect you with so-and-so with so-and-so. And they both were like blown away because they're high caliber people. That's networking. All right. Bringing value, delivering value. And then that kicks in the law of reciprocity, where because I provided something of high value to them, they're going to provide something of high value to me. That's how reciprocity works. In BNI, they call it giver's gain. Giver's gain. All right. Completely off script. I just wanted to answer some of those questions so we can get into the rest of this. All right. So let's go through the Viper methodology, this Viper framework really, really fast. So the Viper framework is it's what I wrote about in this book back here called The Time Wealthy Advantage. So if you see that on the back wall, this is a framework called the Viper methodology, which is an acronym for vision, infrastructure, process, execution, and reporting. Let's go through vision really quick. Vision is simply where you want to go. It has 2 components of personal vision and business vision. Your personal vision is simply, again, where do you want to go? That's where you want to go in life. So if your life was not dictated by income generation, but just like you woke up tomorrow morning with $30 million in your bank account, or 30 million pounds, or wherever you're at, that would be like, what is your day-to-day life? What would that look like if it wasn't dictated by income generation, right? You still might be productive. You want to be productive and write books and own things, own businesses and stuff like that. That's fine, right? We all need something to do. But that's what I'm talking about. Like, specifically, what would your life look like from your personal vision perspective? Why would that matter? Because when you're networking, it's important that I know your goals. It's important that I know your personal goals. It's important that I know your family goals, maybe your faith goals, maybe your friendship goals. Like, these are the important things to start to think about so I can help you. Okay. Right now I'm in a PhD program. I literally just started it. I'm like 2 months in, and I've got a ways to go. And now that you guys know that, you may reach back out to me and say, how are your studies going? Right? That's something that's interesting. That's something, again, this goes back to Dale Carnegie's, how to win friends and influence people. If you want to be interesting to people, be interested in them. And that is just as simple as it gets, right? So when you know your personal vision, this is something that you know personally. It's also something you can communicate to the people in your network. Let's get to business vision. Okay. Now, business vision is simply how we're going to get there. Okay. So we're going to reverse engineer this business to deliver our personal vision for us. And it could also be a career vision, by the way, right? But here's the thing, is many people who are in business for themselves, this is very true of entrepreneurs, but many people, when I ask them where do they want to go, they almost always give me a business vision answer. Like, I really want 50 more clients. I really want to sell 10,000 more widgets. I really want to have an extra $1 million in sales, whatever it is, right? Well, here's the problem, is that when you create a business vision without giving any consideration to a personal vision, you end up creating a life that exists to serve the business. And I'm just telling you, that's an empty well that just never gets filled. So this is how people start to confuse achievement for fulfillment. And it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. I mean, I'm 53 years old, and it took me a long time to figure this out. So let's talk about business vision though, right? So let's put the fries in the bag on personal vision. Let's talk about business vision, because that's kind of what we're here for, right? We want to get our network working for us. So let's start thinking about business vision. This is especially true with people who are in business for themselves. There's 3 C's of business vision, and they are core purpose, core values, and client avatar. Core purpose, core values, and client avatar. Let's talk about core purpose first. Core purpose is specifically what business that you're in and what problems do you specifically solve. Anthony mentioned that he's in real estate in Florida. Okay. I have no idea what that means. Okay. And no offense, I'm not throwing you under the bus, Anthony. You answered it perfect. You answered your question perfectly. But like, I'm saying, like, okay, Pearl mentioned that she's a photographer in the San Francisco Bay Area. I have no idea what she photographs. Does she photograph buildings, or does she photograph animals or children or families or wedding photography? I have no idea. Maybe she just does photos of the motor vehicle. I have no idea. Right. But the point is, you've got to be really specific about what business that you're in and what problems that you specifically solve. Because when you just say, oh, I'm a photographer, people are going to start to make assumptions because they're not really clear on what kind of purpose that you do. Like, what specific problems do you solve? So this is why it's important that you get dialed in on your core purpose and know specifically what it is that you do, almost, and be obnoxious about what you won't do, right? Many people, I understand why, will call me a business coach. I am not a business coach. I'm a strategist. It's very different. It's extremely different. My skill set is far in excess what a normal business coach does, because I've taken a lot of time to understand the 4 main functions of business: lead generation, sales, operations, accounting. And I have a vast amount of knowledge in a very, very broad range and deep knowledge set within those four core functions. You know why? Because I've taken a lot of time to put tools in my toolbox around those 4 core functions, right? So my core purpose is about helping life. And really, I like working with and I'm going to get to avatar here in a second, but I like working with a very specific avatar, very specific type of client around that core purpose, about helping align their personal growth with their business strategies. That's what I do, right? And I have a very clear core purpose in terms of what it is that I do. Wedding, family, and events. Perfect, Pearl. That's great. And we're going to talk about so you're dialed in on your core purpose. I love that, right? Will you do videos? Doesn't sound like it. Sounds like she does just photography. Okay. So I love that she's really specific. In core values, what matters to you about this business, and how would the world be worse off if you were no longer in business? Now, I know for those of you who are small business owners and you're like, man, this is too squishy. Look, you cannot skip this part here. All right. My works get featured from the US media, and people, oh, wow. That's amazing. So yeah, so she's obviously you're really successful in that, Pearl. That's amazing. So I know this sounds super squishy, but here's the thing. If you're looking to scale your business, or you're trying to have any sort of growth in your business, if you're going to be bringing other people into your business at all, even if it's vendors, you have to recognize that your core values is what determines your company culture, and your core values of your business are in alignment with your personal core values. So if your core values of your business is what defines your company culture, and your company culture is what also helps deliver and dictate what your company brand is. So your company culture and your company brand are inextricably linked. And people come to want to work for me because of who I am as an individual, because they understand my core values and like, look, I don't care if you have me sweeping floors, I want to work for you. And I've had people say that to me. And I'm like, well, okay, why? Because they just knew what I represented, right? People want to go work for Chick-fil-A because of what they represent, because of their core values. It makes sense. So I'm just saying, don't skip over this just because like, well, I'm a one-man show. This is, it doesn't really matter. It absolutely matters, right? It absolutely matters. And this matters to your network. Your core values, when your core values are really well defined, it's going to be apparent in your network. They're going to know. Have you ever had a networking session with someone whose core values you just don't align with? Maybe it was like, and I'm not saying this like it's a bad thing, but maybe they're like so radical, politically, that they were like, anybody that didn't align with them, they just rejected. Right. You're like, whoa, easy, back it down. Whether they're hard right, hard left, whatever. I'm more of a moderate. I lean towards the right, but I'm more moderate. But I'm still tolerant of anybody far left or far right. I don't get that worked up about it. But some people don't, right? And so their core values are so far out there that they don't want to align with me, and that's okay, right? So I'm just saying this is important for your network, because if it's not defined, if you don't take the time to consider what this is, then you're going to start to try to network with everybody, and not everybody's going to be the best fit for you. Make sense? So really take the time to define your core values in your business. Lastly, your client avatar. Your client avatar is who specifically and ideally you want to serve. Okay, so Pearl, you've taken a little bit of time with this. It sounds like you want to work with couples getting married. Okay, and probably in maybe a specific niche. Are they, you might think of what their geographics are, what are their demographics, and their psychographics. So who specifically do you want to serve, and where do they live? Where are they? How are they defined demographically and psychographically? So geographic is obviously where they are. Demographics is who they are. Are they married? Are they single? Are they getting married for the first time or the fifth time? Right. Are they young? Are they old? Are they wealthy? Are they middle class? Right. This is all important in determining demographics. And then thinking of psychographics is how they think. And when you're thinking about psychographics, I want you to think of the term ALIA, ALIA, and that is attitudes, lifestyles, interests, and aspirations. Let me press pause here for just a hot second. If you define your avatar, understanding their attitudes, right? Their attitudes on just in life in general. What's their overall attitude? Are they optimistic? Are they, what are their attitudes on life, right? Are they an outgoing sort of person? Are they, are they more introverted, right? Are they very pensive? Do they spend a lot of time learning, whatever? What's their attitudes on things? What is their lifestyle like? Do they go out, do they go out drinking every night, or are they, in by 7 and in bed by 9 sort of night? Like, what's their lifestyle like? Are they raising kids? Are they, just getting started in life? Whatever. What are their interests, right? Are they readers? Are they into NASCAR? Are they into football, right? What are their aspirations and goals? Do you think it would be beneficial if I communicated? Let's say I spent a lot of time getting really clear on my avatar. By the way, I like working with married couples who have kids at home that are business owners, and they have faith, right? They have faith in God. To me, that's generally checks all the boxes. Now, if they don't check all the boxes, that's fine. It's not that I won't work with them, but that's generally who I tend to attract. Now, if you knew, and I tend to work with people in the service industries, right? Service industries is generally the ones that I do best with, right? And if they've got some employees, that's fine too. But I'm just saying that's a sweet spot for me in terms of my avatar. Okay. Do you think it would be beneficial for you to know my avatar in terms of what they're interested in and what their lifestyles are, what their aspirations are? Do you think it would be beneficial for Kimberly to know that about me? What my attitudes are, what my lifestyle's like, what my interests are, what my goals and aspirations are. Yes. Are you communicating those to your networking person, to the person you're networking with? Are you asking them? Are you asking them, say, so what kind of goals do you have over the next 6 or 8 weeks? What goals do you have that you want to hit before the end of the year? Are you on track for your goals for 2025? I'm asking questions. And if you haven't given any thought to those answers, then many people won't. Many people won't have really, I mean, some people will, right? But when you start asking questions and you get to know them in a deep level and you're taking notes, you're kind of like, okay, and you're actively listening, that's when you're being a much more effective networker because, and I've got a really good memory for stuff like this. So when people tell me things, I'm like, aha, so and so mentioned that they were trying to buy a property down in Florida. I know this guy, Anthony Jones, he does real estate down in Florida. And I know he's in the residential space. I'm making this up because I don't know, but he's in the residential space in Orlando. And I know he has a lot of connections in Orlando. I'm going to connect that person with Anthony. Don't you think that would make sense? This is why you have to ask good questions while you're networking and don't make it all about you. Make it about them. That's how you be effective as a networker. Okay. So if your networking is not working, chances are you're probably trying to make it too much about you. Right. And you're like, well, if I don't bring myself up, then I'll never get my word in edgewise. Look, if you're networking with the right type of people, they're going to ask you. If they're only networking for them, then chances are they're only in it for them anyway. They're never going to. Don't keep score on stuff like that. Just give in abundance. And I don't keep score. And I have gotten so much in return. It's when you're keeping score, like, well, I'm not giving much. Well, what are you giving? That's one of the first questions that I would ask when people said that they weren't getting very much out of BNI. I'm like, okay, well, let's take a look and see what kind of referrals that you're giving. Because most people are not going to feel compelled to work that hard for you if you're not working that hard for them. So you just have to consider that in your networking efforts. So anyway, this is the 3 C's of business vision: core purpose, core values, and client avatar. Let's look at the 4 core functions of business. And this has got to be true in every single business. This is around lead generation, sales, operations, and accounting. And I'm just letting you know that the client's journey through your company happens in that order, right? So it comes in lead generation, sales, operations, and accounting. Lead generation specifically lets the world know that you're out there through a variety of marketing approaches. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but there's outbound lead generation, inbound lead generation, direct response, networking, obviously. Outbound, just to make it clear in terms of the difference between outbound and inbound, many people get this messed up, which I did too for a long time. Outbound is like interruption marketing. Like you're sending marketing messages out to interrupt. It's also called interruption marketing. Inbound is when people go, I wonder who the best dog groomer is in my area. Dog grooming near me, and pulls up a website that says, hey, here are 7 ways to groom your dog, in between dog grooming visits. And you go to this website and it's like Kayla's dog grooming. And here's your, click download your 7-step way to do blah, 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 right? That's inbound. Okay. Direct response is when you put out an ad and it says, click here right now for this thing. Now that can be both outbound or inbound, but direct response is what I prefer just because it's so trackable. All right. So that's something to consider. Networking, obviously, talking about alliances, joint ventures, press releases, affiliate marketing, things like that. But we're here to talk about networking. Okay. And then networking is word of mouth marketing. And the truth around word of mouth marketing is it's always working, right? That is the universal truth. It's always working. The question is it working for you or is it working against you? The truth is, again, the new gold rush is for attention. So if your networking is not working, you have to start to think about this. Like, how do you start to change the narrative? Like, it's got to be part of an overall strategy of owning the mental real estate of other people. So, in other words, I have identified myself as a life and business strategist multiple times on this session already. And those of you might start to think, yeah, he's not, I'm not really sure what the difference is between a business coach and what he does, but it sounds like he's got a lot of knowledge about a lot of things. Well, I do, but around four core functions of business: lead gen, sales, operations, accounting. So, again, this is about owning the mental real estate of people. And I say mental real estate. I was in the actual physical real estate world for a long time, and that's where most of my money comes from. So when my real estate is paying me, okay, and that's why I'm able to do these things. I don't have to rely on consulting or being a strategist to feed my family. That I get fed in other ways, but I really enjoy this. Like being a teacher, being a consultant, being a strategist. This is what winds my clock. But the thing is, I still have people that will call me and ask me real estate related questions. You know why? Because for more than a decade, I spent a lot of time building up that muscle in their mind. This is local generally, people reaching out to me with real estate related questions. That's because I spent so much time building that thing out around real estate. That's why people call me. Even realtors still call me about different things around the rental real estate business. That's because I know that business very, very well. Okay. So let me ask you a hot question. If I was to ask the 5 people closest to you, Anthony, Pearl, Fallon, right? If I was to ask the 5 people closest to you, what is it you do? How many different answers am I going to get? Like, be specific. When they say photography, like, what are they really going to answer? Or real estate, what are they really going to answer? And if they come up with 5 different answers or 3 different answers, whose fault is that? Clearly it's yours. Clearly it's mine. If I mean, I went to my son the other day and he made some comment about what it is that I did. And I'm like, what do you think that I do? And he's like, well, you talk to people. I was like, oh my gosh. Now, granted, he's 17 and he's got this great girlfriend and all that. But the thing is, like, that's his life right now. So he doesn't really know what I do. But again, eventually I'd like my son to at least know what it is I do. My wife can explain it. I think I'm pretty sure that she can. But the point is that if I was to ask the 5 people closest to you and they can't answer and they can't give a good answer, that's on you. That's on me. So maybe I need to go home tonight and ask my wife that same question. Like, hey, what mention to my bride, hey, sweetheart, describe what it is that I do. And I think she's heard me say it enough times that she could answer that question. But if she doesn't, that's on me. Like, I need to make sure that my referral sources know what it is that I do. If I was to ask you referral partners, what is it that Anthony does? What is it that Kimberly does? And they can't come up with a great answer, or the answer is very wonky, that's on you for not educating them well. So you really have to take the time and own their mental real estate. And this is something that I've noticed with business owners specifically. Where are my business owners? Go ahead and type this in the chat. Every time you get in the shower, you have a different idea, different business idea. Where are you at? I know you're in here, right? And I'm letting you know that I know that you're in here because I face the same problems. Every time I get on a treadmill, anytime I get on the interstate, and I'm just thinking, I'm lost in my thoughts for a while, I come up with a different business idea. Okay. So I'm just letting you know that I get it. But the problem is that business owners, there's so many business owners that are so fragmented and so all over the place that this is why people get really confused about what it is that you do. And this is why your networking might not be working, because they can't describe what it is that you do. Okay. So, guilty. Yeah, I get it. Look, I get it. And I've been in many different businesses. And at one point in time, I had 7 different businesses going on. And I was not really, they were running all on their own, but there was a couple that were just getting too fragmented. And I was like, look, I don't want to be in it anymore. And I let the people that I was in business with, I just let them know, like, I'm not interested anymore. Like, I need to make my life more simple because I was not effective. So this is, again, about owning their mental real estate. And this is where you need to, this is where, anytime is thinking of like moving company, or someone's thinking of pharmaceutical rep, or selling athletic wear for Zaya, or whatever it is that people automatically think of you. And you're not, like, it's not the flavor of the week with you. Like, you're doing this and you're really, really dialed into this specific thing. So this is where you have to be divisive. You have to take a stand. It's easy to think of politics on something like this, especially American politics, which is just a disaster right now. But hear me out, right? You have to take a stand for something, which means you will exclude some people, and that's okay. All right. Now, I like working with business owners. I like working with entrepreneurs. I like working with business owners and entrepreneurs who invest in themselves. And guess what? Not all business owners and entrepreneurs are willing to invest in themselves. Not all the business owners are willing to do what you guys are doing right now at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday to educate yourselves, right? So this is where you have to be really clear again, your core purpose, your core values, client avatar, and have these conversations with your networking partners. And it's also important that you ask. You ask for the referral. Ask from the very beginning, right? So here's the thing that I want you to start to think about. If when you're let's say that early on that you're in the sales process, right? I generally will ask for a referral early on, even before people have really gotten a chance to know me. So what I might say is, um, you chose to be here, right? That's exactly right. So here's Michelle, I got what you, oh my gosh, yes, you got all the here's here. All right. So here's the thing. If I got into a sales conversation with you, we're going to make this into a selling conversation for just a hot second, because this networking and selling are not the same thing. But if I got into a selling conversation with, let's say, hey, you, Michelle, right? And Michelle was like, okay, hey, Michelle, thanks so much for meeting with me today. It's really good. I've got your information. I know you're interested in potentially what it is that I do as a strategist. Before we get started, though, I just want to ask you, I really work very hard for the people who are in my circle, right? And really work hard with people who, work very hard for people who want to come to me as a strategist. And I want to ask, do you know of anybody who might need what it is that I have as a life and business strategist? And I don't want you to answer now. I just want your permission to circle back with you at the end of the sales process, because you can't think of anybody right now and you don't really know of anybody right now. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but is it okay if I give you a little bit of time to think about that, and then we can circle back on the other side? Is that okay with you? And Michelle, well, I have never had anybody say no, unless they just didn't want to be there. But I've never had anybody say no, but I'm just saying that tees up and starts getting Michelle to think about the referral process down the road. Right. So that way I can start to get referrals from people. Now she knows I'm going to work my tail off if she does sign with me and she wants to work with me. And I say, hey, so have you given any thought to anybody who maybe, remember several days ago we talked about this. Have you given any thought to anybody who actually might want to work with me? Yeah, as a strategist, any life, any married couples who have a business, service related business, maybe a contract or something like that. Right. This is why it's important to have that ask. Now, in my referrals, if I'm doing a referral and I'm having referrals, I do ask, right? Hey, look, I'm asking it of them. Like, who could I send your way? Who are you looking for specifically so I can send them? And most people will answer that question with anybody who. Anybody who. You're like, well, what do you mean anybody? So when I'm asking, for example, and you say, well, anybody who's looking to buy real estate, for example, I say, okay, Anthony, anybody who's looking to buy real estate, does that mean broke people? People who don't have any money? And he might go, no, I sell like multi-million-dollar homes. I don't want to work with broke people. Okay. Well, you said anybody, right? So this is where you have to be really, really specific. Now, let me ask you something. I just want you to think about this. Just look around. Like I just want you to think of something that is white. Think of 3 things that are white. Just think of 3 things that are white. Okay. Give me a few seconds. You don't have to type it in. All right. Now, I want you to think of 3 things that are white inside your refrigerator. Now, how quickly were you able to come up with that thing inside the refrigerator? Probably pretty quick, right? This is something that when you start thinking, it starts to activate what's called reticular activation. It starts to make you think about something, because I was much more directive in my ask around what's 3 things that are white inside your refrigerator. Many of you probably said milk. Many of you probably said eggs. Many of you probably said the plastic inside the refrigerator. Okay, fine. Those are the very typical answers that I get. What I'm saying is, when you really, really specific, if I said to you, look, I really like working with HVAC companies, generally that are owned by husband and wife, and they may have 3 or 4 trucks, right? They may have more, but generally they're somewhere around there. They have 3 or 4 trucks. They do residential HVAC. Do you know anybody like that? And you might go, some of you might go, yeah, I know exactly who that is. I have, right? And if you've heard them struggling that they want to grow their company, or they're having trouble making payroll, or they're having trouble hiring good people, even better. Those are people I would love to have a conversation with. Now you're like, oh, okay. So next time you hear an HVAC guy or a plumber or someone in the service business, in the trades, that goes, yeah, I actually know a guy who actually works with people just like you, trying to grow, trying to build company culture, trying to grow and not create a more miserable job for themselves. This is really critical stuff. This is about asking really specific questions. So when you're asking and then say, hey, look, can and I'm going to ask you for the referral. So you ask them for the referral and say, hey, look, I'm looking for specifically for people like this. Right. And if you know of anybody, this is how you be really specific in getting your referral. So how many of you have asked very specific questions around these things? And how many of you have also asked, who exactly are you looking for? Right. And be really clear. If Pearl was saying, like, okay, she does wedding photography, I'm not 100% sure if she does wedding photography only in the Bay Area. Will she drive an hour in either direction? Well, an hour is probably not very far geographically. Will she drive 100 miles in either direction? Right? I don't know. That's up to her to decide, because that I really want to understand where, more about her avatar, more about what kind of work she's looking for. So the ask is really important, right? So you can ask for the referrals, but you've got to be really clear in your answers, because it doesn't get more clear just because it leaves my mouth. It doesn't get more clear in their ears. So if your networking is not working, chances are it's because you're not asking. Chances are you're not asking them for the referral, like who can I refer to you? And chances are you're not very clear when you're conveying who it is that you're working for. Hi, I'm Sirba, founder and project manager of NameTech. We help businesses grow tailored IT and digital solutions. Excellent. That's very clear. Custom CRM, ERP. Okay, very good. Website development, business branding, digital identity. Okay, all good. I'm glad that you can join us. Very good. So the point around this is you have to lead with massive amounts of value, right? You have to lead with massive amounts of value. If you're struggling in your networking, it's because you're not valued in your network. Your network doesn't value you. And I'm not trying to be mean here. I just want to be honest with you about specifically what it is what is your network going to value? If I'm going to make connections for other people, this is really important that I know what they value so I can bring them valuable things. If they're going to value connections, then I'm going to bring them connections. If they're going to value information, I'm going to bring them information. I'm going to bring them things that they would value. Back in my days when I was in BNI, if I saw a clipping of someone, if they got an award or something like that, I'll clip it out of the newspaper, or if it was online, I'll print it out and mail it to them and say, hey, congratulations, and then just drop it in the mail. Right? Those are the sorts of things that really, really make a difference. So if your networking is not working, my question is, how much are you investing in your network? And how many times are you following up with people saying, hey, let's hop on a quick 15-minute Zoom call. Let's just let me know what's going on with you, right? I mean, these are the sorts of things that you have to do. Roxy from Salvo Global. Okay. I help companies become more profitable in finding and managing bilingual candidates who work your hours in your systems at a fraction of the cost of hiring conditions in the US. This is perfect, right? It's not outsourcing in the old sense. It's more like building on an extension of your team. Right. It's more like fractional working. That's great. Roxy, we handle the recruiting, onboarding, compliance, co-management, so leaders can focus on growth, not headcount. Right. And it also saves obviously on costs as well, Roxy. This is great, right? That's really, really specific, and that's great. Okay. And again, so if I was going to be like, how can I, another question around this, around the ask, is how can I send a referral to you, Roxy? Like, how do I warm that up? How do I send someone to you? Because you're really specific about what it is that you do. I don't know exactly, like, are you looking for companies that are like, have 3 people or 300 people? And if you say, well, anybody, okay, but approaching a company with 3 people versus approaching a company with 300 people is extremely different. And you have to be really clear about that. You may eventually want to get to that 300 person level, but you're like, well, but this is kind of the avatar that I'm working with right now, and that's what I'm comfortable with. How do I warm that up? How do I say to them, right? So here's one that's really, really good, right? And this is where I'm saying, like, right now, if I'm leading with massive amounts of value, and this is one of the things that are the success strategies that I think are really helpful is, let's say for argument's sake that, Roxy says, okay, I really like working with manufacturing companies, right? I really like working with manufacturing companies in the Midwest, like in Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Tennessee. I really like working with those companies in there. Okay, great. Now I've got kind of a geographical picture in terms of who it is. Okay, great. And I really like working with companies at least 20 to 50 employees. That's really kind of a sweet spot for us. We work really well with those types of companies. They see lots of value that way. I'm like, okay, great. I really like working with companies in the manufacturing industry, right? Especially the ones that support anything around the auto industry. Okay. Now I've kind of got that sense that you see what I'm doing here? She's painting a picture for me around who specifically she likes to work with. So now if I say, she's like, so if you run across any HR directors specifically, because I don't know who to bring this up to. Am I bringing this to a line supervisor? A line supervisor has no authority in this, right? But maybe an HR director. Okay. So an HR director who's in a Midwest manufacturing company that supports the automobile industry. Okay. I can do that. Right. And I can say, hey, and what kind of problems are they having? Because again, this is about delivering value. So you're saying, okay, so what kind of problems are they having? Well, the problems they're having specifically are related to, they're really having a lot of turnover, and it's turnover of these very specific admin type positions. I'm like, okay, I get it. So if they have turnover, and rather than going with someone else, rather than going out and hiring someone else, you could hire a fractional person basically that can be plugged into that, and they can do the job anywhere. You're like, yeah, exactly. Okay, right. Now I'm taking some liberty with what Roxy said here, but I'm saying, okay, great. I think I got it figured out. So now here's what I'm looking for. Roxy gives me information around that. Now I'm looking for an HR director in that industry, and say, hey, Joe, I met this gal Roxy. Let me just ask you a quick question. Do you have a lot of turnover in your admin positions? And they're like, no more than usual. I'm like, well, let me let you know why I'm asking. Because there's someone who, they do this service, right? They've got this service where they plug in fractional people. And the nice thing is that because they have this entire service, if one person gets a little flaky, they literally pick up that person and they're cross-trained already, and they put them right in, and you don't even know, right? You just know that the work is still getting done. You're like, really? Yeah. And at 70% the cost. You're like, what? Yeah, because I've got 3 people that are actually, one's getting ready to retire, one's getting ready to move, and the other one's getting ready to have a baby, and she's not coming back. I could use that right now. Oh, okay, great. Right. Or another way to consider this is if you hear someone complaining about something in their business. Okay. So for example, let's use my example here, is if you hear someone complaining, right? If you hear someone complaining, man, I'm just having so much trouble with turnover in my business, it's driving you crazy. Really? Who's helping you with that? Who's helping you with that? What does that question do? That question allows them to say, well, I don't really have anybody. I've got a headhunter like working for me, or in the case of the HR manager, it's like, well, we've got recruiters, that do all this sort of stuff. Okay, well, would you be open to some help? Right? I know this guy, Mark, who helps with business strategy, who helps with retention and things like this, or this gal, Roxy, who does XYZ. Do you see how I'm making these connections? These simple questions are so important to get people talking and allow you to deliver value to them. Okay. So this is really important. Now, I'll be honest with you. Would I send Roxy a referral? I would not. I'm sorry, Roxy. I don't know you well enough yet. And you know why? Because we literally just met. I'm not going to put my reputation at stake and send you a referral if you turn out to be a complete flake. No offense to you, right? But I've got to protect my endorsement. I got to protect because people are going to, they're going to, cognitively connect me to the person that I sent them to, right? Think about this. Have you ever gotten a movie recommendation from someone or a book recommendation from someone, and it was like, oh my gosh, what a great book or what a great movie, right? And you forever connect that person to that movie. You forever connect that person to that book. Likewise, have you ever gotten a bad movie recommendation from someone and you're like, wow, What do they think of me that they recommended that movie, right? Think about that. That's how that works, right? That's that connection that's always made. So this is why you have to be careful about sending referrals. This is why you got to get to know the people in your network well. Does that make sense? I had someone who reached out to me recently that wants to come on and talk about AI stuff. She seems like a lovely human being. I don't know her yet, and I'm not going to introduce her to my tribe unless I really take time to get to know her and vet her a bit. And she seems like a wonderful person, but it takes time to get to know them. Okay. So that's happened to me before, and I was disappointed. Yeah, exactly. This is why you have to be careful, right? Even recommending movies. Okay. So these are the sorts of things. Now, there's a couple things I want to go through, some success strategies here, and then we're going to put the fries in the bag tonight. But there's 15 reasons why people buy, and this is and once you understand the 15 reasons why people buy, this will help you get deeper into buying psychology around your specific avatar. So understanding why people will buy, this is really good. Understanding the 6 principles, that's actually 7 principles of persuasion, and different mistakes to avoid. So let's get to this. There's 15 reasons why people buy. Let me go ahead and take this down so you guys can see this. But there's 15 reasons why people buy. They will buy because they want to make money. They will buy because they want to save money. They want to save time. They want to avoid effort, make things easy. They want to escape pain, emotional pain, physical pain, so forth. They want more comfort in their lives, right? They want to feel safe, for example. They want better health, which is to even have less stress. They want to gain praise, and especially gain praise from their own internal tribe, or they want to feel love from their tribe. Or even just feel more love, to some sense of belonging. They want to increase their status. They'll buy for truth, and they'll buy for truth, especially if they have felt lied to in the past. That's really important. They will buy for growth, and it could be any sort of growth. They'll grow in their knowledge, grow in their faith, grow in their muscles, grow in their wellness. They'll buy for novelty, just because something is new. They will buy for certainty, and they will buy to be in contribution with others. So this is really important. And I want you to think about all the ways. Take this list and put them on 15 sheets of paper. Hang them up around your office. Hang them up around your house. Or I don't really care what you do. But the point is, I want you to come up with many, many reasons, directly or indirectly, how your product or service helps people make money. How do you, directly or indirectly, does your product or service help them make money? And Pearl, who does wedding photography, goes, how in the world would I help people make money? I don't know. Directly or indirectly, how do you help them make money? For example, because their wedding photos were so good, they were so proud of their wedding photos, and I'm going on a stretch here. This is an absolute stretch. But because they were so proud of their wedding photos, because they were so nice, they hung up their wedding photos in each of their offices, and people noticed that they were married and was like, wow, that's a really nice wedding photo. Yeah, thanks. We're really happy with that. And because now they feel like married people are more trustworthy, they want to do business with them, they're going to make more money. Yes. Is that an absolute stretch? Total stretch. But the point is, I want you to come up with as many reasons that you might be able to help people make money, directly or indirectly, for what it is you do. Sounds crazy? Sounds hokey? I'm telling you, just take the time to do the exercise. How do you directly or indirectly help people save money? How do you directly or indirectly help them save time, avoid effort, escape pain, right? Come up with as many reasons as possible. And some of them may be completely off the wall, but some of them are going to be really good. Some of them are going to be really good. Don't filter. So this is why when you take time to do this exercise, you're getting really dialed into the buying psychology of your avatar. And this, in your networking, when you can communicate this sort of stuff to the person that you're networking with, you're painting a picture, a very clear picture of who it is that you want them to send to you. Make sense? So this is why, again, this is about understanding buying psychology and helping them help you. So let me find my mouse here. Okay. So let's get to the 7 principles of persuasion. This was something that was written by Dr. Robert Cialdini, who wrote several different books. And it's really interesting that when you understand the 7 principles of persuasion, when you understand reciprocity, right? So how are you persuading people, right? Reciprocity is one of the ways that you can persuade people. And reciprocity is, if I give you something of value, you're going to want to give me something of value. That is the basis of BNI. And they called it giver's gain. is that if you give something valuable to me, I'm going to want to give something valuable to you. If you give me a good referral, I'm going to want to send you a good referral. Now, I've had people who sent me lots of referrals that I could never find a referral for. And there's people who sent me tons of referrals, right? Or that I sent tons of referrals to, and they never referred me once. And that's okay. The point is, I was sending out referrals and I really wasn't keeping score. I was just saying, hey, giving you lots of referrals. Or, hey, how did that referral work out? Like, that wasn't really a great referral. Oh, really? What happened? Well, they turned out they weren't qualified, or they were this, or they're kind of a mess, but blah, blah, blah. But I did call them and we talked, and it didn't work out. Okay. So I might keep track of who I sent, right? But I'm not keeping score. When I'm looking at commitment and consistency, you have to recognize that people will make micro commitments along the way. And because inconsistency is viewed as a negative human trait, they're not going to want to walk that back. So being persuasive, again, is making these micro commitments along the way and being consistent. So if someone makes a commitment to me, I'm going to make sure that I follow up with that. Or if I make a commitment to them, I'm going to make sure that I follow up, because again, this is about being persuasive. So if I send you something, if I send you a white paper, or if I send you something like that, again, or this is exactly how people find value in things, is they make these micro commitments along the way. And then all of a sudden they're like, man, how did I wind up here? How did I wind up paying $10,000 for a weekend getaway? Well, it's because you made micro commitments along the way to do that. So it's really important to understand. And this goes into buying psychology. So for example, what you could put together, again, leading with value for your referral network, is to say, hey, do you know of anybody who might be interested in doing joining me for a webinar around hiring a wedding photographer, right? And Pearl is putting on like, hey, 7 things that you should know before hiring a wedding photographer. Why would that be important? It would be important because if she's putting that on, then she's going to get a lot of referrals. She's going to get a lot of people. She's going to, hey, this is something valuable. I know you've already been married, or hey, maybe she would want to do anniversary photos, right? 5-year, 10-year, things like that, right? Again, I'm just saying this is the sort of thing, like these are the sorts of things that you put out there to get commitment from people who then they will want to be consistent and they will want to come back to you. So it wraps in reciprocity, and it also wraps in commitment and consistency. Social proof is another reason why people will be persuaded to do something, is they see other people do it. This is also why testimonials are really, really important. Have you ever given anyone in your referral network any testimonials of your work, right? Have you ever provided a testimonial for anyone in your network? Think about that. Have you ever provided a testimonial for anyone in your network? That would be really, really powerful. And it would also, by the way, trigger commitment and consistency, and also trigger reciprocity. They would want to, give something back to you, right? So these are all the things that you're going to be doing to develop, to generate value for your referral partners. Liking is often confused for like, do you like me? And some people just don't like my face. That's okay, right? But some people, they're like, oh yeah, he's a likable guy. That's fine, but that's not what I'm talking about. Sure, being likable is not a bad thing. But what I'm talking about more specifically is, are you like me? Like, we're talking about affinity, right? We're talking about, are we from the same hometown? Or do we have the same experiences in life? Do we have the same interests, right? Are they like me? That's really important to understand. So when you're asking other people for referrals, when you're connecting with other people, and you can say, hey, look, I'm really looking for people who are kind of like us, right, in our age group, or I'm really looking for people who are kind of like us. We're both married, and maybe we're looking for 10-year wedding anniversary photos or something along those lines, right? That's what I'm looking for. So I'm just saying, like, you're looking for people who are like you, right? Not necessarily, do you like me? Authority, again, this is demonstrating authority as a really, really important component to your network. Is, do you have authority in what you're doing? Have you demonstrated authority to your referral partner? Why should they trust you? Why should they even send referrals your way? No offense, Roxy, I don't know you. Like, I have no idea what kind of infrastructure you have built out for something like this. Maybe you have a very robust infrastructure built out and you have authority in that area. I have no idea, right? Because we literally don't know each other yet. We're just literally right now at visibility. We're not at credibility yet. Then we have scarcity. Scarcity has to be real scarcity. So in other words, you can't manufacture scarcity. I mean, you can, but it's got to be real scarcity. It can't just be something that you're saying, hey, act now or you're going to lose out, right? This is where you have to have actual scarcity and something. It's like, hey, I've only got 5 slots for this type of thing. So I've only got 5 open weekends to shoot wedding photos. I've only got $300,000 to invest in one property in South Florida, right? So just once it's gone, right? Or whatever. Right. So the last one is being familial. And this is, again, goes back to affinity. Affinity meaning like they're affiliated with something, right? They're like someone is in your geography, or you see them all the time on Facebook, or you see them, all the time on different things, right? This is really important to understand these 7 principles of persuasion, because then you can start to deliver and start being a little bit more not persuasive, but being more influential to your referral partners. This is really, really important. So here's just a couple of mistakes to avoid, and then we'll wrap up. Having an unclear message is a killer. If you're not clear in your message, it doesn't magically get more clear in the mind of your avatar. So I want you to think about that. Like, it's really important that you stop and think about this for just a hot second and think, wait a minute. Yeah, it's transactional, not relational. That's exactly right, Michelle. You got to be really, really clear in your message, though. If you're not clear who you're looking for, if you're not clear about what it is that you do, Roxy was certainly very clear about what it is that she does, but specifically in terms of, okay, well, how do I open up that? How do I open up that with a conversation with someone else? Because right now, what Roxy did was sell to the room. And I'm not knocking you, Roxy. I did the same thing, right? But unless someone specifically was wanting to hire Roxy in this room, that did nothing to help her networking. Does that make sense? So if your networking is not working, are you literally just coming into a room and throwing up all over the room and then going, well, it's not working? Yeah, but what value have you brought to anyone else? What are you literally connecting with anyone else in the room to say, well, what is it that you do? And how can I help you? And that is what really exploded my networking for me. So when I'm networking, when I bring value to the other person first, that's how I've done it. And I'm telling you, it just works. It works so much better rather than going in the room, trying to sell to the room and getting the people in the room to buy. It doesn't work that way. You have not developed enough trust yet. And that may be why your networking isn't working. So failing to follow up. I can't tell you how many times I would send people referrals to other people and they don't follow up. And I will be honest, I am guilty of this too. So when people are wanting, they're like, legit, I want you to call me. I'm like ready for, and they don't follow up with them. Do you think I'm going to be that hard about, or working that hard to send you referrals in the future if you don't follow up on the referrals that I gave you? Right? You're not working that hard. And you're not following up with your referral partners. You're not asking them how they're doing. You're not asking them, hey, how are you on your goals? How are things going with your PhD program? How are things, right? Look, Fallon, I'll be honest with you. It's the same thing with me. These are all mistakes that I made. These are all mistakes. So this is not judgment. This is confession. I have made all these mistakes: being unclear, selling to the room, failing to follow up. Those are some easy ones. So, and then also monopolizing other people's time. So this is really true in a networking event, is that there's a balance. There's a harmony there to a networking event. Some of the people who are like massive introverts are like, you're my networking person for the night. I'm not going to let you go. Right. And that other person's like, yeah, I kind of want to see other people, like, kind of, like they're like freaked out and they're monopolizing. So I'm just saying, you have to have that awareness that you could be monopolizing someone else's time. And if you're only networking with one person, I went to an event not long ago in Central Florida, and I met the 3 people that I was wanting to connect with within the first like 20 minutes. And I was like, well, I guess I can leave. Right. But it was like a 3-day event. But no, all kidding aside, I met the people immediately right away because I didn't know if they were going to stick around for all 3 days. And several of them did not. So I'm glad I met with them early so I could get their contact information. Because I'm writing this next book and I wanted to interview them. And those are people that were on my mind. So something else is being inauthentic. People will smell inauthenticity a mile away. Don't make that mistake. Don't feel like, and I'm so embarrassed to admit this, I would just kind of embellish things because I was kind of ashamed of who I was, or I wasn't. I would lie because the truth wasn't good enough, and the reality was they could smell it. I know they could. And that's really, really important. So just be your authentic self. Just and be appropriate, right? Like I'm saying, well, this is me. This is what I do, right? Yeah, but be appropriate, be authentic, don't try to be something that you're not. This is something else, is not knowing the crowd. This is really important because if you don't know the crowd or what kind of crowd it is, this is why, like I'll give you a great example. I was the master of ceremonies. I was the MC for a gala on Friday night, last Friday. And I knew the crowd. And the reason why I knew the crowd is this is the third time I've done it. So this person asked me to be the MC, and I knew that this was like a tuxedo type event, right? If I went there wearing boots and a jacket, I would be not knowing the crowd, right? So because I went there dressed very well, I impressed the crowd because I knew, and I wasn't there for business. It was a fundraising event for children. But the point is that I was not there for business. In fact, I didn't even put business cards in my jacket, which was like a major networking no-no. But I wasn't there to network. I wasn't there for that purpose. But someone, of course, comes up and says, "Hey, do you have a card?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't," right? But that's on me. But the point is not knowing the crowd, not recognizing, like I knew the crowd. I knew the crowd well, and I knew them. I like, because I'd been there before. But the first year, I didn't know the crowd, and I tried to know them as best I could by looking at the guest list. So there were names that were familiar to me, but I didn't know everybody there because it was a completely new crowd to me. So I'm just saying, like, you have to do your best to know the crowd and the type of crowd that they are. They were not a boots and tennis shoes type of crowd. This was a high end avatar that was there, and also understanding transactional versus relational. So and I'm painting this with a broad brush, and we're almost done here. But being transactional versus relational, this is where it goes back to, like, oh, you have a thing, I need a thing. That's the transaction. Women tend to take longer. They tend to be more relational. And this is a very broad brush, but women tend to be more relational. Men tend to be more transactional. So understand this gender difference is that when men and women are networking, right, men might get to the transactional side a little faster than women. Women want to know that person a little bit more. And this was something that had been done in a study. It was revealed in a book, Business Networking and Sex, Not What You Think. It was really about the difference in genders. It was really fantastic, really phenomenal research that had been done, but it's around being transactional versus relational. Take more time to be more relational and recognize that sometimes that people just get there a lot faster than you. So the point around this is to get to trust as quickly as possible. And the fastest way to create trust is to demonstrate competence. Demonstrate what you're talking about. Let them show you, like, hey, look, this is actually how I do my job. Can I show you sometime? Maybe do a demonstration on Zoom, or do a demonstration. Maybe I can come to your office and just show you what it is that I do. Not to sell you. You're not my avatar, but just so you can maybe refer me in the future. That's how you start to get and demonstrate competence to other people. I'm really good at what I do. In fact, I am the top of my game right now and getting better. But right now, what I did for the last hour is demonstrate my competence around all the networking mistakes that I made. And you might go, well, yeah, that's kind of silly. Why would you tell them about all the mistakes that you made? Because it demonstrates competence. It lets people know that I know how to do it wrong, and I've done it right a lot less than I've done it wrong, and I've still done really, really, really well. So I'm saying, if you can just take my mistakes and use those and make sure you don't do those things, right? Demonstrate competence, deliver value to your referral partners, and make sure you're continually following up with value, and then ask them from time to time, how can I help you? And by the way, I am looking for a connection. I noticed that you're connected on LinkedIn. Would you be able to help warm up that connection for me? Right. And again, all of this hinges on your ability to create trust with your referral partners. So the chances are, if you're not doing any of these things, if I was to ask any of your referral partners that you went and did these speed networking events at, which by the way are a massive waste of time unless you follow up, unless you're demonstrating competence, unless you're extending them value after the fact, it was a complete waste of time. I would have told you probably would have been better sitting at home in your underwear, because you just wasted everyone's time there. That stack of business cards, and I keep this as a prop on my desk, right? Just to remind me not to do this. But if you have this stack of business cards that sits on your desk with a rubber band around it. And then you look at them and go, I have no idea who this person is. Right. Okay. And one of the things that I do, okay, and this is interesting. So one of the things that I do is I keep a Sharpie in my jacket pocket. And this is someone I met a long time ago. Okay. So on the back, I wrote in the red Sharpie the context and how I met this person. I know exactly who this is, right? And I haven't thought of this person in years, but I keep these on my desk as kind of a reminder, but also because people get into lots of networking situations and they look at that business card in 6 weeks and go, I have no idea who that is. And eventually they throw it away. You've wasted everyone's time. You wasted your time, their time. You wasted the 2 hours going to that event and driving home. So I'm just saying, make sure you're not making those mistakes and use these opportunities to deliver value, demonstrate competence, and then follow up with them with something that they would value. Ask them for, who can I refer to you? Who are you looking for right now? Is there anyone specific that you're looking for? Right. So again, one other quick thing, and this is about inauthenticity, is the fastest way to destroy trust is to demonstrate a lack of character. If you go in there and you start, if you drink too much at a networking event, I generally don't drink. I mean, I have a rule that I don't drink unless my wife is with me. But if my bride's not with me, I don't drink, but I generally don't drink anyway, just because I'm in my 50s now and it's just like a week of therapy for my body. So I just don't do that anymore. But the recovery time's not worth it. So again, the fastest way to destroy trust is to demonstrate a lack of character. If I was like, hey guys, I got to rush off of this webinar tonight because I got a hot date with my girlfriend. And you're like, wait, does he mean his wife? Because he said he's married, right? Now I have completely, which is not true. I'm just saying, if I said that, then you'd be like, oh, he's completely destroyed his character. Like, I'm out. So that is the sort of stuff that destroys trust, is to demonstrate a lack of character. Think about how politicians attack each other, is they try to destroy that person's character. Or an attorney that's doing a cross-examination, they try to destroy their character. Okay, so this is also important to have a support system. We're going to be wrapping up here. If you guys are interested in connecting or staying connected on Facebook, this is Michelle will go ahead and put the link up to this. There's no cost for anything like this. This is the end of it here. So what I would suggest, though, I am if you're a Facebook kind of person. If you're not, you are going to be getting the replay from this session emailed to you. So if there's other conversations that you want to have, or looking at work together, because I have people like, hey, why didn't you mention about working together? I'm not here to sell you on that. I'm literally here just to give you value, demonstrate some competence, show you that I know a little bit of what it is that I'm working, that I know what I'm talking about, and I've made a lot of mistakes. And I hope that you're not going to make any of these mistakes that I have made. So hopefully you found this helpful. Thanks so much for sticking around, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks again.